Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Human Design, the Deconditioning series. And if you've been looking at our Instagram page or even following us through YouTube, you know today is the final episode of this series. And I'm absolutely so excited to have our very own Moni introduced to us a modality that isn't as well known as all the other modalities that has been covered thus far in the series. And she is the one that introduced me to it, and it is probably the most self-empowering things you could ever learn for yourself and for your friends and family. And I'm so excited for this to be shared with all of you today, and how it can be a wonderful magical tool in your everyday life, including your deconditioning journey. So, without further ado, let's bring out our own magical Moni. Hi.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, I get to interview you. How does that
Right.
feel?
It's very exciting. I really appreciate your kind introduction and all your lovely words.
I mean, they're all true. They're all true. So, might as well get right into it. So, why emotion code or body code?
Why emotion code and body code?
Yeah. What was your
Yeah.
like, oh,
What was
moment?
my moment, right? Yeah, it's interesting because, you hear of lots of different modalities and some are more popular. You hear about Reiki, you hear about chakra work, you hear about all these different things. And I was always kind of like, okay, that's interesting. And I knew I'd get into something eventually, but everything always kind of felt a little too vague. Like you're doing it and you're feeling it. What do you sense? And like, just was nothing really grabbed me. And maybe it's my
Not
like super
tangible enough.
not tangible, yeah. And maybe it's my super strategic brain where it's just like I want something really detailed. So nothing really quite grabbed me. And then I was doing a different human design class online, and I heard like emotion code, body code, and I just like my like inner ear just like perked up, like, "Oh, and then again, it came up like a week later, and I was like, "What is this? Like, what is this? Tell me things." And so, this really lovely woman told me about it and like sent me the chart, and it's a book and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I ended up just like listening to the audio book. So it's Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and it's really quite fascinating because it's it's like, do I start explaining the modality or do I explain how Dr. Nelson came up with the modality?
I mean, okay, so you explained your experience a bit, so I can move on to the concise explanation
There you
of
go.
the
It sounds like kind of
modality.
naturally going into that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Bradley Nelson, the emotion code, you can listen to the audiobook. Like it's on Spotify now. So it's like if you have a Spotify thing, you can listen to it for free. But it's very interesting. So he, as a child, he was sick and then he was faith healed. He's a Christian and he was faith healed. And it like stuck with him as a child that like, oh, he'd want to help heal people someday, right? As like a little kid, like 5 years old or something. And then he grew up and he went to college and he ended up like getting into computer programming and going down that path. And after he finished his degree, he like remembered this experience as a child and wanted to like kind of put him together. So he ended up getting like holistic medicine and like chiropractic care. And he ended up kind of mixing these two areas together with like the programming kind of mindset that he had to start being able to essentially ask people's subconscious to help like navigate him what's wrong with them and what do they need to like get fixed, right? So our subconscious knows what's wrong with us and it knows how to fix us, right? It knows what we need. And so what's really cool about emotion code is it gives your subconscious, it gives you a means of like communicating with it so you can get that information.
It's so direct.
Yes, it's super direct. And exactly, like, so answering now the first question after the fact, is that it is extremely, extremely precise. And I love that because like, oh, it's this chakra, it's this thing, it's this, it's all felt kind of distant and I couldn't really grasp onto it in a way. Whereas with emotion code, it's like super precise. It's super just like on point and you can identify it. And it's your own subconscious that is helping tell you what's going on with it. And I just find it very direct. You don't need to go through another person. you can learn this for yourself. You can go to a practitioner, obviously, but like I just listened to the audiobook and started practicing it on myself and then on friends and family and whatnot. And so that felt very empowering to me. I think a lot of people do a lot of interesting work, but you also have to be really careful with who you allow to engage with your body or your energy field, right? It's like anything. Like you don't want to just go to like any dude who says he's a doctor to like cut you open. You have to be careful. I think it's really easy to like people get so excited about like new energy healing stuff. You might end up finding a charlatan or maybe even somebody who means well, but they don't know what they're doing, and it can get a little weird. And I know I've definitely had that experience with people of trusting the wrong people. So what I really loved about emotion code is I could figure it out myself. I could do it on myself very precisely, and there's no middleman. And I really appreciated that, especially because it's like I got a lot of stuff to fix, or at least I did at the time. So I wanted something that I could do constantly if I wanted to, and I didn't have to wait for another person or trust another person. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I guess I could go into the whole idea of like what is a trapped emotion and like that aspect.
Kind of, but what I want to know is like, what were the changes in you that you immediately noticed? You're like, oh, okay, this is not the different. What was the word I'm looking for? This is not the previous edition of Moni. Like, there has been an
Yeah.
upgrade. Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and it was immediate just from like the first one that I remember doing on myself because the idea is that you're finding trapped emotions, right? So something happened, you fell down the stairs when you were a kid, right? And maybe it was like a shocking experience and that like gets stuck in your field. And even though that might have been 20 years ago, there's still something that's just kind of hanging out that's maybe just like a little on edge or maybe a little afraid or something. And so it's this very immediate, precise thing that you can identify, and basically you identify it, you send it love and the intention to just be like, cool, I see you. And now I'm ready to let it go. And then it just kind of disappears. And you can feel maybe a little tingle, a little like energy wiggle. And then right away, there's an uptick. Like it's just the most like immediate thing. And, maybe I was just so ready to dive in too. But I mean, from the first time that I did it, it's like you could feel that something is happening, and you're like, I don't know, maybe it's my imagination playing with itself. But I mean, it's continually shown itself effective that if I put in the effort to do this for a few minutes, I can identify it, I can send it some love, and I can clear it. And then I can feel better. And when I got definitely really deep into it, when I was doing it very frequently, like you could feel this like lightening, right? It would be getting lighter. And then even like the colors in the room, I swear to God, like would get brighter as I started
That's
really getting into
incredible.
my gunky stuff. Yeah. I would literally like, almost feeling like you're like on a little happy something because everything would just get lighter and brighter where you're just like, I'm ostensibly in the same environment. I didn't change anything, but I identified something that was kind of stuck in my field and now I'm lighter, brighter, and happier. So like it's a very
Ooh.
immediate thing. It's a very immediate experience. I find, especially for myself.
Nice. So the next thing I want to know, so you kind of explained this, but I want to hear of like a story. Like a story, it doesn't even have to be your story. It could be
Yeah,
someone else you were, working on and you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, wow, no, this shifted something in a big way."
Oh yeah, no. So this one's kind of fun because it's actually going to be about a cat. Also, sorry that my voice is funny. I'm getting over the flu, so
I
thank
was
you
gonna
for
say it
bearing with me.
sounds like smoker raspy. I like.
Yeah, yeah. I'll take it. Yeah, no. So this one's actually about a cat, which is really it's cool because it's like you could do this on people, on friends. You could do this on kids, right? It's a very safe. Like you're not interfering with anyone's body, right? Like there's not really a lot of negative side to it. But what's also fun is like doing it on an animal. They're not going to even like try to placate you, right? They're not going to be like, oh yeah, that was really great, I feel so much better. Like it's an animal. So it's been really interesting being able to help out animals because it's like they can't communicate, but like they're obviously having a hard time. And so there's this experience, I know maybe 3 years ago. So I was visiting a friend in Detroit and she was, letting me stay at her place. And before I went on to another adventure, and just as a thing to like, I don't know, say thank you. It was like right when I was getting like super deep into it, I was just like, oh, like, would you be cool? Like if I did some like energy work and I like just checked out your animals. She had like, like 3 cats and a dog, had like a whole menagerie. And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever, like have fun. I wanted to express my gratitude. And so like I did it on all the animals, not really like thinking too much about it. But one of the cats, apparently this is a cat that she rescued that had like lived with like an 80 or 90-year-old woman who like died of cancer or something, like really sad, and the cat was really attached to like her person, and then this like woman died, and this cat was just like grief stricken, just completely grief stricken. My friend ended up with the cat, but like as soon as like she brought it to her home, this cat was like hiding under the bed, never to be seen for like months and months. People are like, you sure you have another cat? Like, we don't believe you. And this cat was just always like hiding. The cat only got close with the friend of mine when the friend was sick. She like some tummy upset, and the cat came out and like laid with her and purred, and that was like they had bonded, but nobody else. Like this cat would always be hidden. You would never knew it existed. I knew none of this going into it. I was just like, can I clear energy on your cat? Like, I just want to be nice and thankful. And so I started doing it. And it was, grief and sorrow and these like heavier emotions. And I was like, cool, whatever, I'm doing the thing, clearing the energy. And it was like, I don't know, it was a couple hours later, the next day, the next morning. And like, I didn't know any of this cat's backstory. And my friend is like standing there in shock because she sees her cat out and about, like out on like the bed, like laying there like nothing. And she's just like, why? Like, never would expect this cat to be out. Just like, Moni, come here. And I was like, what? She's like, try to pet the cat. Like, okay, cool. Like, and I'm petting the cat like nothing. This cat is like cool, groovy, like cool as a cucumber. And my friend is like dumb stricken because she's like, this cat has been like hiding under the bed. Anytime anybody is over, this cat is never out and about. And like, this cat's just hanging out, letting you pet it. And, I like, told about the energy work in the story. And it was just like, this very like wow moment where I'm like, I didn't even know this cat's backstory. This cat doesn't know me, obviously, and it's not gonna like pretend like, oh, you did a thing, I'm gonna be nice. Like, it was just literally identifying these trapped emotions of like grief and sorrow within this cat's field that was just like really sad that its like human passed away. And just being able to identify, by communicating with the subconscious, right? The subconscious is like, hey, this is the problem. And then you're like, oh, that's the problem. It's like, yeah, that's what this is. And you're like, okay, wow, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Send it love and gratitude and the intention to clear it. And then you clear it, and then it just goes away. And Moana went away as well. So yeah, it's really interesting to be able to work with it in that manner. Especially like I said, with animals, because they're not going to pretend, they're not going to fake it. So I've had that experience. I had other experience with like animals that were like limping, and I didn't know what was going on, but I was just like clearing the energy, and then like you see them the next day and they're fine. So those are really positive. There's another fun animal story. I had one where I live near a forest, and there's a horse that was being ridden, and it was having like a really weird, wild, rough time. And the woman riding it was having a weird time, obviously, as well. And when I went to check the energy on the horse, it was like confusion, and it was like stuck in this place of confusion. And it wouldn't let me clear it until it made sure that I knew that the confusion was due to the rider, like that the rider didn't know how to ride the horse properly. And that's why the horse was like freaking out, and being able to identify that full level of information that was needed in order to give the subconscious what it needs. So I suppose going into like breaking down like what is the premise of the modality. Take a sip of my water. And the premise of the modality is basically you're looking for trapped emotions within the energy field, right? So like, what is an emotion? So an emotion is a frequency that arises that our body picks up on, this, this frequency, this wavelength, right? That is there to give us some information. And then we ideally would then receive this information, process it, and then let it move on its merry way. But life happens, trauma happens. And sometimes when that emotion hits, it's so big and it's so intense. And for whatever reason, our bodies are not able to process it and allow them to move on, then they'll kind of get stuck within our energy field, right? So, like I said, in the beginning, maybe you fell down the stairs as a kid, or maybe like something really scary happened. And for whatever reason, it just got stuck in your field. And then maybe now, like anytime, you're in a certain situation, there's just like extra agitation and there's an extra discomfort. And so, so that emotion gets stuck within the field, and it just kind of like a little extra weight on your back. It's a little something stuck. And so what emotion code allows for is, as we were saying, communicating with the subconscious to find the trapped emotion. And then you need to identify whatever information the subconscious needs about that in order to like have enough data, right? So maybe it needed to know that, it's a trapped emotion of shock. And that shock was from falling down the stairs when you were, 6 years old. And then once it has that amount of information, then it can allow you to move forward to actually like clear it.
My apologies about that. My internet decided to go on strike. So
I figured, I just kept talking.
I was gonna say, like a great experienced co-host, you're like, I don't need anyone to interview me. I can just tell my story. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she's explaining it. Okay, magical. I was left off at the shocking
Yeah, the cat.
difference in the cat's behavior.
Yeah, I talked about the cat. I mentioned like another couple animals, and then I was like, well, I'm just going to talk about trapped
Yeah,
emotions and
how it works.
yeah.
Amazing. So you kind of explained how it works, which is nice, but you explained the emotion code. So I've been blasting body code all over the place. So for people going like, what's the
What's the
difference?
difference? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So emotion code is kind of like level 1, and body code is kind of like level 2. So emotion code is a really good one to, I mean, it's the default one you'd start with, just because it's a lot simpler to kind of grasp, and it'll give you that foundational layer. So for emotion code, you're looking for trapped emotions in the field. And then body code is like level 2, which there's also a book for that one. And then with body code, there's also like an app, like you can download like on your phone or a tablet or whatnot. And so body code goes like eons deeper, where then you can actually go further with finding stuck energy in like, I mean, it literally has like every section of the body. It has like every muscle of the body. It has every bone of the body. It has like pathogens or toxins. It's got a deeper level of more detailed energy work, right? Despair anchors and like the will to or will not to do something. It just goes like much, much deeper, and it's really quite amazing. So emotion code is like level 1, start there. And you can get used to like the system of how you do it. And there's a specific script that you do. So it becomes a very like rote thing that you can just do. And you can find these trapped emotions, and that's really wonderful. But eventually, basically, it's like you can go super deep with emotion code. And then there's kind of a point I found where I'm clearing stuff, but then it would kind of like come back. And then
Like
like
reoccurring.
it would reoccur. Yeah. So it'd be like some stuff, it's like, cool, you have this trapped emotion, you cleared it. Great, good, groovy, gravy. And then with other stuff, you find the trapped emotion, or I suppose I'll explain a heart wall emotion. So there's a basic emotion, and then there's a heart wall emotion. A heart wall emotion is when something so crazy, shocking, traumatic, car accident, big deal stuff kind of happens that the heart is like at risk of breaking. And so it ends up taking the trapped emotions, or the active emotions, I suppose, in that moment that it is around, and will like take those emotions and like form a wall around the heart as like
Wow.
almost like a bunker to like protect you. And it was neat because when I was learning about this, I actually had an experience with a friend where something happened, and I felt so hurt and betrayed that I felt my heart go "Kuh." And I was like, oh my God, I think I just fell off the heart wall like start, which is actually really cool. And I'm cool with the friend now, so it's fine. But like literally it felt like this like bunker barrier of like, oh my God, I'm so hurt, like to
I was going
protect.
to say, why would you want to get rid of your heart wall?
So in that moment, it could protect you in this like big bad situation, but you don't want to live with like a bunker around your heart, right? Because then it's just like you can't beat properly, can't love properly, right? It's this place of like fear or shock or trauma or something so big and bad that like your heart's breaking. Like it's in that moment where you need to protect your heart from breaking. It's like, oh, I got you. But after that, it's this fear. It's this like you can't love that person. You're not open to love anybody because you're so afraid. So
You're
you
like
can have,
always guarded,
yeah,
right? It's like
yeah,
wearing armor everywhere.
yeah, exactly. So you can identify with emotion code like your basic trapped emotion or the heart wall emotion, which would be like a multitude of emotions. And so those, those might be more than enough for like a lot of people. Like, cool, I can get my trapped emotions, my heart walls, and I'm good and groovy gravy. But I definitely had more gunk to find out. And so yeah, I'd be identifying something, and then I would like clear it, but then it would like pop back, and I'd go to identify something, and it would be the same thing, and I try to clear, and it was like, nope. And it was almost like trying to like rip the head off of like a weed in your garden,
You didn't
but
get to the
you
roots.
didn't get to the roots. So body code allows you to go deeper into those roots where it's like, cool, maybe it's this, trapped emotion, but underneath it, there's some other blockage, on your heart that you need to identify that you can do with body code. So body code is super cool once you feel really nice and comfortable with emotion code, and maybe you're coming up against something where it's not allowing you to go deep enough, then body code is really, really groovy for that.
So I was going to say the the main question that everyone might be wondering is like, so how do you talk to your subconscious? Like how do
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
figure out what is the trapped emotion? Like what is the telephone line?
The telephone line, yeah. So there's an emotion code chart. So I think I sent that to you. So if you want to like prop that one back up. So
Sure.
there's this really
I was
simple
going to say even before that, muscle testing is what I was
oh,
getting
muscle test. Well, okay, then just tell me muscle testing. I'm getting
Because
over
yeah,
this
because
little girl.
people
You
have
gotta
no
help me
idea.
here. You
We're
gotta help
we're
me out
all
here.
like, "No, no, 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 no," like, we know all the things, but, like,
Yeah.
to someone who's never heard of it, they're like, "How do you do it? It's a
Oh
chart,
yeah.
now what?"
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yes, explaining this, I think, would be, like, pivotal to
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. No, lead me with that, man. Getting over the
I
flu.
was
I
gonna
need,
say, good thing I know this modality, otherwise we would be just, like, blind leading the
huh?
blind, and it'd be
Yeah, exactly.
quite hilarious.
So muscle testing. So muscle testing is super cool. It's a way that you can test your muscles in order to identify what's true for you, your subconscious, right? So a very simple one is like the sway test. So
Ooh.
that is a situation. Sorry, my throat is so dry and like crackly.
Oh, no
Um,
worries.
uh, so basically, like a sway test, you can do you'd be standing up. I usually close my eyes just because it feels a little bit more comfortable. But as a way to like kind of test it, you would just say like my name is and say like what your name is, right? And so it'd be like my name is Moni, and then you kind of wait a tick, and you can feel I feel myself pulling forward. So typically, a yes is forward and a no is backwards, right? Your body is literally going towards truth, or like that's not what that is, right? So if I went, my name is Moana, there's like there's like a half a tick, like don't rush it, just give it a second, and then you'll kind of like lean backwards. If yours are flipped and like no is forward and yes is backward, like get down with your bad self and like do that. For most people, yes is going to be forward and no is going to be backward. So you can test it with your name, and then you can literally just test it with like yes, and then it would like you'd go forward for whatever your yes is, same thing. If you go no, wait a second, and your body would go backwards. So that's like the easiest one I
And you
find
have to
to
be
like kind of learn.
standing up when you do it, right?
Generally, like I was feeling it a bit with my like sitting down here, but standing would be a bit like it would be more natural, and you'd have more of like obviously a pendulum aspect of your body than when you're sitting. But that's a really easy one to do. You can look up other ones. There's one that you can use that's like the ring thing. So you do like your rings, fingers, and your thumb interlocked, and you'd be like, "My name is Moni," and then when I like pull, then they get stuck. If I go, "My name is Moana," then like this hand just goes like weak as opposed to like holding it in.
Mhm.
So there's other ones you can do with like your arm being pushed out and you go yes, and it like you can resist. If it's no, then the arm will fall. So there's
I
Lots
was
of
gonna
videos.
say you mentioned the pendulum too.
Oh yeah, the pendulum I feel is like the pièce de résistance. I started off doing the sway thing, and then I did the ring thing for a while, and then I ended up getting very much into a pendulum was gifted to me by a friend, and that ended up being really fast and easy for me. So I ended up getting very quick with my pendulum. So that's what I personally use, because that's what it is, a pendulum in muscle testing. It's the same thing. Your body is gonna subconsciously indicate a yes and a no. So for mostly, it'll be a circle with the pendulum for yes, and then a line for no. But again, do your same test. You can do your name, you can do yes, no. You can do some basic things to establish your baseline. But basically, it's a way that your subconscious is communicating through your muscle system.
I was going to say it is probably something that you want to get comfortable with first, right? Like
Yeah.
with muscle testing before you even start delving into the chart. Because some people, when I've spoken to them, they're like kind of not confident, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, the answers are delayed, or I'm not getting anything, or I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
wrong answers. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. Like the first time you ride a bike, you're gonna fall on your face a few times. Like it's just the reality. You try to juggle, you're gonna drop some balls. It's like getting confident with anything. Um, Definitely just play around with the sway test. Like honestly, that's what I did, and it's super easy. And like as long as you don't feel silly for like standing there with like your eyes closed and that. But basically, it's like just play around with it, and like I really find like just give it like half a tick. Like ask the question, and then don't get too ahead of yourself because I know I can get like t t t t t t t. But like if you wait like half a tick, then you will just like feel this push forward, right? Like it'll happen. So just play around and practice with it, and like don't overthink it. Like it's like anything. Like you're hanging out in like your bedroom or your living room, like don't get self-conscious about it because who cares?
Yeah,
Have fun
because
with
when you
it.
when you start getting into your head, that also affects what you're going to be getting as answers. So
Oh,
you want to be
100%.
out of your head, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is definitely like being out of your head because it's like if you're looking for a certain answer, like that's why it's like I'm not into like divination or anything like that. I've delved and it gets weird. So I would avoid and like warn against divination-y type of things because it could get kind of funky and you don't know what you're communicating with.
Well,
Um,
there's that, but there's also the what you said, right? It's like we can get attached. It's like
yeah,
I
yeah,
want something to be a certain way. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, is that the true answer or is it just something I
yeah.
wanted to hear?
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, that was like the first part of like the divination warning because it's like you're gonna sway it in that way. And so you do definitely have to be like disconnected from it. So whatever that is, breathe, meditate, whatever it is for you to kind of detach yourself. Or you can do things. There's also like partner. If you have somebody who can like help you do muscle
Oh,
testing, you could do like
yeah.
the arm thing with them, kind of stuff. Same thing with like my pendulum. I find I sit further back. I kind of lean back and I'll even kind of like hold my wrist here
For
um,
support.
for support. And it'll kind of just like really, I could feel like almost like I'm not going to try to influence it, right? Like I really make an effort of like, I don't want to influence this. I'm going to
Neutral.
distance. And
Mhm.
it kind of, I don't know if it like neutralizes a muscle or something, but yeah, it definitely keeps that distance. But um,
I was
yeah.
going to say to give Moni a little water break slash throat break. So, a funny example again, if you go into the book, which I highly, highly, highly recommend, it's so good. Dr. Bradley's example of a divination no story, which I think is really, really cute and really, really funny at the same time. He used to help patients using muscle testing figure out the gender of babies
Mm,
of his pregnant patients. But then he did it for his own wife, and they were like so convinced they were going to have, I can't remember what gender. But,
yeah.
anyways, when the baby was born, complete opposite. And they were like, ah, we were so attached
Mm-hmm.
and it was our subconscious like projecting what we wanted to hear. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what you know we were trying to say by like don't, and he even warns you over and over again in the book. It's like
Yeah.
the purpose of this is for finding whatever's wrong with your body, not trying to predict the future. Like
Yeah.
don't even go
And
there.
it just gets messy. Like it's not even like worth it to go down that path because yeah, it's like you're going to be attached to it and you're going to influence it or like who knows what else you're contacting like just don't with that. And so moving forward then, that's part of why I really do enjoy with body code is like there's a very specific script and there's a very specific chart, right? Whether it's emotion code or like the full body code, it becomes this very rote thing that you can use. And so it does allow like that distancing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to have a guinea pig?
I think that'd be super fun.
Amazing. So our guinea pig is not going to be me this time. We had Danny volunteer himself to be the guinea pig. So Danny, the guinea pig, are you ready, my man? I need to see a nod. Okay, I think I lip read he's ready. Okay,
Yeah.
so first thing I'm gonna do is pull up the emotion code chart so everyone can follow along. And then for because this is not quite like your other demos, right?
Yeah.
This you're gonna have to play with it yourself
Yeah.
to get what's gonna happen right now. So get good at muscle testing and then start playing with this. But this is a nice demo of how it's done. So with that, tag team out.
Hope you can hear me. That made
Yeah,
me
I
a
can.
little bit nervous.
No, you're good. She was just looking for like a thumbs up or something in the little video. So she just wanted to make
Yep.
sure you're ready before she brought you up. Hey, Danny, welcome.
Hello, Moni.
So
We're gonna do emotion code, right? I've been
yeah,
thinking about my thing because you're gonna ask me a question ultimately, and I'll answer it, right? Like,
yeah, ultimately. I might just give like a little background on like the chart just on its own for our viewers. So basically, when you do this, there's like a flow chart of questions, and the basic one is, is there a trapped emotion that's ready to be released? And you get that yes or that no with the muscle testing. And assuming it's yes, then you'd ask, is the trapped emotion in column A? Yes or no, right? And then you check, is it a trapped emotion in column B? Yes, no, right? You want to double check that like your yes is a yes and your no is a no.
got you.
So then you can identify first the column. So let's say it's column A, right? And the
Yep.
next question you do is the trapped emotion in an even numbered row? Yes or no? And then same thing, is the trapped emotion in an odd numbered row? Yes, no. You kind of just, double check your answers that your yes is a yes and your no is a no. Let's say it's row 3, just for funds.
Yeah. And you narrow it down basically through
You
the
narrow
month.
it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we identified, let's say it's column A and it's row 3, right? So now instead of these, like, I believe there's like 60 of them, now you're down to 5. So then you'd go, is the trapped emotion crying? Yes, no. Is the trapped emotion
Gotcha.
discouragement? Yes, no. Was the trapped emotion rejection? Yes, no. Sadness, sorrow. You go through the 5 to make sure that you're identifying the one. Let's assume it's, discouragement, right? And, you double check, is the trapped emotion discouragement? Yes. Is the trapped emotion of discouragement ready to be released? And maybe it is, and you can go do it, but maybe it's not, right? Maybe it says no, that it's not ready to be released. And then with that, you can ask, is it necessary to identify more information about the trapped emotion of discouragement? Yes, right? And then maybe, you kind of will get like an intuitive hit of what this might relate to. In the book, he gives like a lot of examples of like what you can kind of play with, right? Maybe it has to do with like how old you were. Maybe it has to do with, who it related to. Maybe it has like, the trapped emotion has like a certain size, that you have to identify the size or the weight or the oomphiness of this trapped emotion, right? So, maybe it needs to know it was like from when you were like 8 years old and you got a bad grade on your test and like the teacher was really mean. And then there's this trapped emotion of discouragement, right? Just whatever story coming to my head. And so you identify whatever information is necessary. And then you ask again, is the trapped emotion of discouragement ready to be released? And let's say it's yes, right? You get that like resounding yes. It's like fantastic, right? So that's a means of communicating with the subconscious to go from these 60 trapped emotions down to 1, down to, okay, what is the exact information that's needed for the subconscious to be able to let it go? And then from there, what you would do, you take like a magnet. So I have this little like circle magnet that I
I forgot
enjoy.
to grab my magnet.
You can also just
Hang on.
use your hand.
Okay.
Yeah,
from my
because
bridge.
we're part of, like, your body is like a magnetic field too. So you can use a magnet if you like a prop, which I tend to, but like let's say you don't have it, you can literally just do your hand. But what you do is you'd put your hand or your magnet over your third eye, and then you would it's love, gratitude, and intention, right? So, right, like what is love, right? Love is that we're all connected, that like you're connected, I'm connected, all these experiences are connected, right? That we have access to it. The intention, which would be to clear the trapped emotion, and then gratitude, right? Pray as though it has already been done. Gratitude that you're able to identify it and clear, right? So you'd hold your magnet or your hand over your third eye and go, love to, Danny or whoever you're working on. Gratitude that this helps. Please clear the trapped emotion of discouragement, right? And then you'd go 3 times over the
Do I
center
ever
of
say the Ho'oponopono prayer? I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you.
you can. It's really pretty. It's not specifically part of emotion code or body code, but
Mm.
I've definitely like oomphed up my intention prayer. So I have like a whole spiel that I've like incorporated. Also, depending what I'm clearing and how heavy it is, I kind of like will add certain little touches. But as the basic of it, it's love, gratitude, and intention.
Mm.
Um, so And so you're doing that over your third eye, and then you're running it over your governing meridian. So another pullback explanation land. Meridians, for those who don't know, it's kind of like the energetic highways that your body, within your body, that like this electricity and these energy is moving through. And so the governing one goes down the back, and you have the centering one that goes down the front. And those are like the 2 biggest ones. You have lots of other ones that go down your arms and legs. Like Thai massage engages with this, or like TCM, the traditional Chinese medicine, it relates with this, and even like a lot of nervous plexus and your nervous system wiring even correlates to these certain points. So it's really interesting. But basically, yeah, it's love, gratitude, intention over the governing meridian, and then I tend to feel like a little wiggle. I tend to like wiggle around, and you can feel like a little like electrical tickle. You may or may
Mm.
not. And then if it's heavier things, sometimes there might be like burping or maybe coughing, more wiggling around, or like I'll end up like, moving my
I'm a little
muscles.
distracted. Can I run to the fridge and grab my magnet?
Go grab your magnet.
Just one thing.
Oh, I love Danny so much. But yeah, I just wanted to like provide enough contextual background information so our viewers can have a sense of like, what the hell are they doing here? So that's fun. I'm glad you are so excited to participate. You want your own magnet, because it is fun. It is
Yeah,
fun to have like a little
it's a
prop.
big one.
Oh,
This
that
one
is a
here will
nice big
hold up
one.
about 100 pounds,
Oh, nice. Like,
80 pounds probably.
um, so yeah, I feel like that's a pretty solid baseline
I've had it done
explanation.
many times. My very first teacher, Dr. Starkweather, Meg Starkweather, she did many different things on me. She always used the Ho'oponopono prayer
Yeah.
as the releasing mechanism,
Oh,
running
that's
over the
beautiful.
prime meridian. Either way, though,
Yeah.
and we would go through this, and she would douse it out. And is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? So it's all going to sound familiar. It's been a little while, though.
Yeah, it's definitely like once you get used to the rhythm of it, and you can modify it to your liking. The Ho'oponopono pair is like super pretty, and like yeah, you can definitely add more to it. But add it as its bare bones, like once you get past understanding the flow chart of like the questions, and like you have this little chart which I used to like literally carry around in my pocket so I could do it at any time. It becomes very, very second nature. So just like play around with it and like don't feel discouraged. But
Mm.
yeah, so Danny, is there some situation, and you don't have to get into like details or anything, but is there some situation that you have, or maybe like, an ache or a pain or something going on in your life that,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not an ache or a pain. It's a total situation, and it's this
situation.
gate 60 feeling of stuckness
hmm
that is like sometimes a little bit mind numbing.
hmm Yeah, cool, perfect. Yeah, and that's the other thing that's really fun, is because it's like you can just identify something, and it's like you don't need to go into a huge explanation or a huge story, but like you just have this sense of like, cool, there's something here with this situation. Cool. So
It's at present too. It's
yeah,
present.
exactly.
Okay. Yep.
And then on a scale of like 1 to 10, where would you place?
10 being the worst. I
Yeah.
mean, this yo-yo like daily movement between moments of 3 and 5, but very often up around 6, 7, 8, and a little bit of 9, 10. A lot. So it's
So
a lot.
you're all over the board.
All over and up high.
And up high. Cool. All right. So I'm going to just use my pendulum here because it'll be the fastest for me. So is
Is that
Danny?
too vague of an answer, or is that good enough?
No, that'll be good. It's just helpful to give like a number, because then after we go through it, then you can like
8.4.
8.4, super specific. So then once we like do a round of it, you can see, and you don't have to do it, but it can help to have like a framework of, cool, we're at an 8, and then it might, it'll go down to this. So it just makes it a little bit more comprehensible for people if they can give things a number. So you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does Danny have a trapped emotion that's ready to be released? Yes. Is the trapped emotion in column A? No. Is the trapped emotion in column B? Yep. Is the trapped emotion in an even numbered row? Nope. Is the trapped emotion in an odd numbered row? Yep. All right. Is the trapped emotion in row 1? No. Is the trapped emotion in row 3? Yes. Is the trapped emotion in row 5? No. Right. So again, even though we got the yes on 3, it's always best to just double check that like your 5 is also like a no. Just, check your answers, make sure you're good. All right. So it's in column B and row 3. And I got yeses on both of those. So column B, row 3. Is the trapped emotion confusion? No. Is the trapped emotion defensiveness? It's looking like a yes. Is the trapped emotion grief? No. Is the trapped emotion self-abuse? No. Is the trapped emotion stubbornness? No. Is the trapped emotion defensiveness? Yes. So, also, Danny, if you have some water, drink water, because that also makes it like clearer to find and just easier to.
She was constantly telling me, now drink some water, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mean anything at first.
No, it's neat because it's actually kind of perfect, because if you notice that the answers are maybe not coming in clear and it's a little fuzzy, like drink water, whoever you're doing it with, like have them drink water, because that'll just make it clearer.
The mystical sauce, water, the shapeshifter.
Right?
Yep.
It's magic. All right. Is the trapped emotion of defensiveness ready to be released? No. Do we need to identify more information? Yes. Do we need to know when this relates, like when it originates from? No. Is there a certain size or shape that we need to identify? So it's saying yes for this one. This is kind of interesting. Sometimes there's like a weight or an oomphiness to an energy, right? Like it's not like an actual hunk of something, but there could be a tangibility. There could be like this like energetic mass to it. So is this trapped emotion larger than an orange? No. Is this trapped emotion larger than a lime? Is that an accurate enough size? Yes.
Walnut.
Walnut? I mean, so that's.
You were getting smaller and smaller, so I wasn't sure if you needed a smaller object to ask.
Oh, no, it got pretty happy with the lime. I thought you were just feeling walnut.
No.
So like, I mean, if you get an intuitive hit, then that's also
When it
really
said
helpful.
smaller than an orange, I was like, it's smaller than an orange?
I know, right? That's what I thought too. I thought it was gonna be bigger. All right. Is it
Is it the
necessary
size
to.
of a VW bug, you mean?
Yeah, it might be, right? Or it might be have a certain length, or maybe there's a color, right? Like whatever it is that comes to
No,
mind.
but I don't know what it is. And so smaller than an orange might make perfect mechanical sense. And so you're calling it out, so I'm just sort of going with it.
Yeah, roll with it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
went with lime, so just go with it again, because
Lime.
sometimes it just your subconscious just needs you to know something, and sometimes you'll get like an intuitive hit about it, and sometimes whatever. Just roll with it. Don't think too much about it. Just find the information. All right, is it necessary to identify more information about this trapped emotion of defensiveness? No. Is the trapped emotion of defensiveness ready to be permanently removed and released? Yes. Right. So it's the trapped emotion of defensiveness, and it needed you to know that it's like the size of a lime. Just go with it. It's sometimes kind of silly or strange, but it's just what information is needed, right? So now we're ready to clear it. So again, you can take your hand or your magnet if you have it. And love to Danny, gratitude that this helps him. Please clear clear, cleanse, remove, release the trapped emotion of defensiveness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you go 1, 2, 3. And I end up usually getting some like energy burps. I think it's my completely open throat. Other people's energy will just come through. So sometimes you might get that or a wiggle or anything.
You hit a good one. I don't know how to describe why, but can you
Something.
do another, or is
Yeah,
there,
yeah, I could do have another one.
or do you want to ask more stuff about that?
No, I don't have to. I was just going to ask, is the trapped emotion of defensiveness been removed? And it says yes. All right. Is there another trapped emotion that's ready to be released? Yes. And it's an interesting thing too that I notice is once I start clearing something, then the answers become more clear. Like initially, maybe it's a little fuzzy and my pendulum was like a little kind of weakish. And so drinking water helps. But also I notice is once I start clearing something, then it's like, I know, maybe it's like tuning the antenna or like cleaning
Probably,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. So I find like, then it's like, oh yeah, now we're running. All right. So there's another trapped emotion. Yes. All right. Is the trapped emotion in column A? No. Is the trapped emotion in column B? Yes. Is the trapped emotion in an even numbered row? No. Is the trapped emotion in an odd numbered row? Yes. Is it in row 1? It's looking like a yes. Is it in row 3? No. Is it in row 5? No. So we're looking at what, column B? Yes. And row 1? Yes. All right. Double check your answers. Is the trapped emotion effort unreceived? That's looking like a big yes, but we're going to go through all of them just to make sure. Is it heartache? No. Is it insecurity? No. Is the trapped emotion overjoy? No. Is the trapped emotion vulnerability? No. So effort unreceived. So effort unreceived is like literally like you tried something and like you put in your all and like it wasn't like received or like no one really cared, no one appreciated it. So that's what that one
That
is.
sounds like the story of my life.
Oh.
Well, ever since I got into human design,
Mm,
some
well,
of that, and then recent endeavors, obviously, with the last 4, 5, or 6 years. Sure, I've seen tons of that.
yeah. So, is it necessary to identify more about this trapped emotion of effort unreceived? No, like your subconscious, like, I got this, you know what you need to know. Is a trapped emotion of effort unreceived ready to be released? Yes, resounding yes. So, same thing, you can do your hand, or you can do the magnet. So, love to Danny, gratitude that this helps him. Please clear the trapped emotion of effort unreceived. And thank you, thank you, thank you. 2 and 3 swipes.
Do you go fast for a reason?
I think I do it so much and I just tend to be a speedier person. So I'm just like boom, boom, boom. So you can do it at whatever speed you feel comfortable with. I feel like I do it so much of this that I'm just like boom, boom,
I'm
boom.
noticing something with this energy of this motion over my head after each thing
Mm-hmm.
is this incredible alignment type thing. I wonder, can a motion code work for like help vibrate anything different in your body, I guess. Like I want my hearing to be better. So there's stuff in the way. I want it
Mm-hmm.
dissolved.
Oh yeah, with that, I mean that would probably go deeper into like body code type of stuff. Just because there's a lot more data and things that you can identify. You can do the emotion code with it, and I recommend play around with it, Danny. Like now you know how to do this too, you know. So I would say absolutely play around with it and like see what you can explore with that. But my guess would be it would end up being beneficial to be able to use body code with it, just because you'll have far more data that your subconscious can like use to communicate what's needed.
Also, I noticed the cool thing is there's something different between, well, I'm not sure, but is there something different between column A and column B? Is there like a keynote for A versus one for B or something?
I'm not sure. I read emotion code like years ago, so I don't know if he ever got into that. I know with the rows, then those relate with I think with the meridians or like the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, right? So you can see in row 1, it says heart or small intestine.
Got you.
Row 2 is spleen, stomach, lung, colon for row 3, liver, gallbladder. So I think the rows definitely do. The columns probably have something. I don't remember if that is or what it might be by chance, but it might be in the emotion code book, which definitely recommend you. Yeah,
I find it incredibly interesting that as we went from row 1, we went from row 3 to row 1, row 3 in column B felt very much like the design. And because when you juxtaposed, because when you were reading row 1, I was like, this sounds like personality stuff, especially the way we were like, yeah, it sounds like you got this. Whereas the body one inside the design was like, okay, let's release it because your dumb personality is not going to release it.
I mean, quite possibly, you know, like that's what's kind of fun about it is like there's connections to be made, and then like if something speaks to you, like roll with it, you know.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But yeah,
Don't
like
place any meaning. Don't place any actual meaning in that. I was just a fan. This
it's
thing
a
always
fun
makes
thing
me
to.
fancifully wonder things. That's
Oh
all.
yeah, and it's fun to ask questions. You know, you're not making any bold claims. You're like, hey, I notice a pattern. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's not. How are you?
Is there one more to do, or should we
We
leave
could
it
do a third
alone?
one. I mean, we can
Let's
check. Does Danny have a trapped emotion that's ready to be released? Yep.
stuck regarding being stuck.
Regarding being stuck. Yep.
I thought you're supposed to ask that.
Oh, I mean, I can, since that's what you want me to focus on specifically, but it would just kind of, I feel like when you just ask it broadly, then like it's just going to give you like the triage top thing. But yeah, you can definitely
narrow it down to asking it to being stuck. And I didn't mean to interrupt your flow because you had just started. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thank you, though. All right. So does Danny have a trapped emotion related to being stuck that's ready to be released? Yes. Is that trapped emotion in column A? No. Is the trapped emotion in column B? Yes. Is the trapped emotion in row 1? Is the trapped emotion in row 3? Is the trapped emotion in row 5? And we're getting a yes on 5. So is that column B and row 5? Is the trapped emotion conflict? No. Is the trapped emotion creative insecurity? That's looking like a yes. Is the trapped emotion terror? No. Is the trapped emotion unsupported? No. Is the trapped emotion wishy-washy? No. Is the trapped emotion creative insecurity? Yes. So it's noting creative insecurity, right? Where it's an insecurity about being creative, you know, in the most simple way. It is an interesting thing as you like explore this. And if you start doing it yourself, you really get to tune into like the specifics of different emotions that I think is like just very interesting and healthy. Is it necessary to identify more information about this creative insecurity? No. Is the trapped emotion of creative insecurity ready to be permanently removed and deleted? Yes. So same thing, you can use your hand, you can use the magnet. So love to Danny, gratitude that this helps him. Please clear the trapped emotion of creative insecurity. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm going to do 5.
You can. I
The middle
definitely felt
one
like
seemed, the middle one seemed really potent. And what did you feel on that one?
I felt like it just kind of felt almost like a headiness, like a lightness kind of, but it, like a ooh, like it let go though.
I sure do hope so.
Do you feel like a shift with that?
Well, I felt very different as the whole thing was going on. I usually do. For some reason, I'm pretty good with emotion code. Like I'm open to it because I seem to let it in every single time. And the middle one seemed the most profound inside of me. If something happens, it feels like an alignment inside my head.
Mm-hmm.
Between
Yeah.
my hemispheres as I run this over. It's a
Mm-hmm.
slight thing. It lingers for a moment, and then it seems to give off its data and then subside a little bit and wait for the next one, next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way, excuse me, Dr. Brad talks about it with like the magnet, and it's like if you ran a magnet like over a credit card strip, right, you would like wipe the information from that credit card. And so like that's the concept of using the magnet over the governing meridian is like you're identifying this, and then you're like, cool, delete now, and then you're able to like delete it. So then
Yeah, it makes me want to listen to Hugh Len again. It's been a little while. I saved his whole 8 or 10 part series along with his hour-long talk to the kids and one other thing. He was so good.
nice. Nice. So I would just confirm, has the trapped emotion of creative insecurity been permanently removed and deleted? All right. Is that it for Danny's session? Yes. And then so before you said like 8.4 was your number, what are you feeling number wise, more or less?
I feel like I'm in a little free fall from super stuckness to a number that I cannot yet identify.
Okay. But you feel like a
Falling.
lessening. Yeah.
Yeah, the falling from the 8.4 since you said it.
Okay. That'll be cool. I'll be excited to like hear from you like tomorrow or
Like a
something.
falling that feels like at the pace of water would travel out of the rain collection unit. I mean, just falling, it seems like a releasing of, letting out of.
Yeah, it's cool. And yeah, that definitely like give yourself time to like let the energy kind of process out, drink lots of water, get good sleep, like all the good self-care types of things. But yeah, it's a really interesting modality and I really enjoy it because anyone could learn this. Like it's on Spotify, right? It's the Emotion Code by like Dr. Bradley Nelson once again. And I think it's even on YouTube, like for free. Like you can, buy the book and support him and read it if that's what you prefer. But it's really interesting because the first half of the book, he's giving you like information of like his background, his life, how he developed this, and like different patient stories. And then the second half of the book, he's actually teaching you how to do this. But like once you get past like the initial awkwardness of it, and you get used to the rhythm of the asking the questions, it becomes super second nature. And like you could do this anywhere, like
Is it
out.
similar to what I think, was it Stephen Hawking's, the person who did uh, uh Power versus Force?
I have
That
no
book
idea. Stephen
is
Hawking's I know is like string theory, like super smart
no, I
guy.
think there's that Hawking's guy who was the scientist guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
This one is a slightly different spelling, but sounds about the same. Instead of Hawkins, it's Hawkings, I think. Anyways, it's slightly different, but he just did a lot of that with muscle testing with your arm out and the weakness.
Yeah.
And he did lots of demonstrations with it.
Oh yeah, and even I go to an applied kinesiologist, chiropractor, and that's why I first learned about muscle testing because like he'll just test my entire body and like see what's going on and then adjust me at things. So muscle testing is definitely used in like a lot of different ways, but it's really interesting because you get to do it on yourself and you could just identify it, and it's so specific. I love how absolutely specific it is because I feel like I could really like grab onto it and do something with it, and you could have these immediate results, but I've had fantastic results with emotion code, with body code. Like I've gotten rid of food allergies with body code. I've done some like really amazing work with this for myself, for others. Like I have family members who will just like call me and like thank me for saving Christmas because they were feeling all sorts of funky, and I was able to clear something, and then they were able to have a great, my aunt messaged me on,
What an amazing connection.
yeah,
There's proof positive ultimately that it's just an
yeah,
amazing connection. I did emotion code, sort of this muscle testing emotion coding thing that I totally morphed into my own little thing for about a day and a half, several times throughout about 2 or 3 days because I was so suddenly into it. And my testing thing was the very book by Stephen Hawking that I was reading, Power versus Force, and that was the grip. So I held it in this one spot in my hand, and suddenly when I gripped it really strong, there was one thing, and when it wasn't the same thing, it was the other, just like what you're doing. And I just remember how stunningly it worked, like 3 or 4 times when I was all into it and called into it
hmm
for just a couple hours worth of time, and then it went away, and I never really went back to it. I was so excited. I'm like, it's there, and then I ran away. So I like, without ever seeing anything to the opposite. So I've always just, my only last impression of my own thing was it's there.
Yeah, there's definitely something there, and if you play around to it, you feel called to it, like I definitely encourage it. It's non-invasive. Read the book, play around with it yourself, and just anytime you work on anyone else, you guys just make sure you have their consent. Don't mess with anyone's energy field without asking them first, just to make sure you cover all your bases. But yeah, that's basically it. So I hope you had a good experience with this. I'm excited to
I
hear
had an
how you.
amazing experience with it. The whole thing, I'm still sensing it now. It always turns into a little soup after a little bit of time of more stuff to. And it's funny, we're about to go into looking at your chart. Is that right?
Yeah, that'll be our next thing.
Wow, la-di-da. Well, well, la-di-da on you.
Hey,
That's
look,
so
it's
funny.
me.
Hey, look. We were checking it out earlier, and we're like, "Is that Moni? That looks like a Moni. Is that a Moni?"
That looks like a me.
You and I were scouring. I'm like, "See a 6. You see a this. I saw this." Like, "Yeah, that's her." That was funny. We were on the forensic team.
Mm-hmm.
I'd forgotten which gate was in the sun when I had asked you to send me your chart. I was looking through text messages because I know we
Oh
texted it.
no, I could
And
just send
after
it to you.
approximately 3.5 full agonizing minutes, I gave up. I gave up and I texted you. And then I just remember I guessed at 25 and I started listening to it. So I was already listening to it before you had sent me the chart.
Oh, thanks for
Hmm.
remembering. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what's sticking out to you today, Danny?
I don't know. We're so familiar, Moni. So
I
it's different because we're like brother and sister here. So I was thinking about these profile lines, just generally speaking, about how big of an impact they've been on your life when you sort of juxtapose them to the whenever the nodes are the same on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a little extra that, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
theme. Like my nodes are different. On one side, it's one thing, 2430. On the other side, it's 19, it's 16 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of planning with a little bit of, speedy. And this one here is both. It's these two gates that gave Eden so much of its Edenness. 11 and 12 gave it the teacher, the finding out, the tree of the knowledge part of that story for sure. But this
Oh.
is the thing that made it be a big deal one way or another. The other way, if it was just, dude, if it was just up to 11 and 10, they would be sitting cozily by the fireside with smoke sleeve jackets and pipes talking about it, right?
Oh, that's
Publishing
funny.
publishing books. But when you add in 636, then then
Then it becomes oomphy. It's got that
it's
impact and
very
crisis.
right. So there's part Eden with the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Part Eden with the vessel. You can't pull the Eden out of the vessel in this chart, in my opinion. It's just the way it keeps showing. And so I want to sort of talk about that in the context of your 3-5 profile.
It's really
'Cause-
fun. Oh, God.
yeah. Well, just that profile gets talked about plenty, and now I'd like to put some into real life context.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring it together with the Eden, the
Hmm.
cross of Eden, because I'm familiar with that when I have a friend who's the cross of Eden. Like, I get it. Like, they're the people who've like fallen out of Eden and like they miss being there and like they bring the light. But I never really quite associated that with myself in that manner. But the 6 and the 36, like obviously, as you said, I have that as my nodes, and then I have gate 11 twice, I believe, on my design side. And also, it doesn't show it on this side, but my Chiron is 12 on both sides.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So into this 3-5 profile, I was waiting to get to the third line. In fact, I had barely gotten to the third line by the time the show had come on.
Mm-hmm.
And I had pressed play because I just wanted to sort of hear it a little bit. And what was the name of it again? I didn't. I don't have my book open.
Which one?
Third line, 25.
Oh, 25.3. That one's the basically it's like just because I'm innocent doesn't mean I'll be successful, which I find
Right,
hilarious. And it's like,
right.
oh yeah, right, because I'll just stumble into things all the time. And it's like do super innocent or think I'm helping or something nice, and then it'll blow up in my face completely. So it's sensibility, the recognition that innocent action does not in itself guarantee success.
Is that a start? Is that a headline, an italic headline, or does that
Yeah,
just go right into it?
no,
Okay,
that's the
that's the
italic
headline.
headline. Which,
Yep.
so for our viewers, when you look in the definitive human design book and you look in the back where it has every page has a gate with all the lines. So on mine, for instance, it's 25 line 3, and then there's initially a line in italics before it goes into the triangle up and triangle down. So the italics mean that you're learning that through your lifetime. Whereas when there's no italics, it's just like you got that from the get,
That
right?
starts out from the get-go.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It's a life process. It's always going to be maturing, no matter what is the thing. So this vessel of love, 25, right? 25 is this universal innocence. It really does sit quite in the now. Its opposition being the 46, the love of the body is just waiting for the experience right now, right? So one brings the serendipity brings whatever it is, the meaning that's going to end up coming to the 25. And all of this is in this movement that is very 36-6. So if you take 3 and you take the pessimism of 3, let's say that limited perspective,
Yeah.
you've had a life process. It basically, so when you see that life process thing on your line, it extra accentuates the life processness of all the roles that the gates, that the 7, the 13, the 1, the 10, that they all are, the 6 inherent roles in the 8 different profile things. So it it takes on that quality, is what I'm getting at. So 25 and 46, they're both right now. And yet right now with 36-1 and 6-1, 36 crisis and conflict.
Mhm.
So talk to it in crisis and conflict. How did this color your movement, your life process of this pessimism?
Oh,
Because
geez.
25 has that life process at gate 3, your third line in its role, limited perspective, 13 role, will have this life process. In its martyr role, will have this life process. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, the 25-3 is like the ability to withstand shock or not.
Mm-hmm. Or
Um,
not. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's definitely resilience there. Same with my 6 and 36. Like my 6s and 36 are very like you'll always, survive the crazy things that come your way. So with my south nodes both being 6, it kind of just feels like my environment's always ready to just punch me in the face. And I can
Mm,
try to like hide away somewhere and create my own little special cocoon where I'm like, please don't hit me. And I'll still kind of just end up something impacting me, but that I could withstand the shock. Can withstand, the impact and the crisis and these crazy things that are going to happen. And like my 25-51 will like guide me to safety
mm, mm. I
and that
could totally.
resiliency.
So the progress of this limited perspective, this thing that brings out our essential empathy to listen to the other, that listener part that will
Mhm.
listen for a limited amount of time in a certain way through the lens of pessimism or not. What has that been like?
Oh God. When I was younger, God, I was miserable. I was such an angry little,
That's
like an
okay. Yeah,
angry
yeah,
punk rock, bitter, miserable, cantankerous teenager. Yeah,
right.
a lot of that.
So, and because so you look at, so things would come up to that teenager, and would it be colored with a pessimism, or was there? Okay,
Oh yeah,
all right,
I mean, like when I was little, like little girl Moni was very like innocent and
not so much.
loving, and
Right,
I was very sweet and loving. And then I feel like there's very specific instances like 7, 14, 21, 28,
got
where
you,
different
got
things
you.
were happening in these 7-year cycles where it's just like, oh, you can't be so sweet and loving, as a
Right.
7-year-old little girl, of like, oh, you need to, protect yourself because people are mean. And I definitely like got that layered on, and I just felt like I grew like spikes around me to just kind of protect myself because something was always kind of coming in to knock me out. And yeah, becoming very like pessimistic and angry and bitter and whatnot. Yeah.
And now,
Now much different because now
right.
I'm almost into my 7th year with human design, and just those years of deconditioning and allowing myself to let all that go and
So
understand
like a
like the bigger
slope,
purpose.
the slope graph, it piles up and then it slopes off through awareness
Mm-hmm.
into some whatever it's supposed to be. It's not like,
Yeah.
so now have you witnessed, last thing about pessimism, have you witnessed this act of chemistry inside of you that throws an intelligence gathering form of pessimism onto a thing to where it really is mostly just applied towards the practical?
That's definitely become that way, yeah, with like the third line pessimism, but it turning into that very like resilient nature, where now it's like become like my joke where it's like, because the third line, I'm always going to bump into things and find out what doesn't work. It's just the nature of the third line, and like really coming to terms with that where I'm like, oh, now I know it doesn't work that way. Right. And before I'd be like, oh, it never works, pessimism. Whereas now
So
it's like, now I know it doesn't work that way. So then I can identify the ways that do work and then have that practical fifth line.
So pessimism technically has a natural life path, is what I'm hearing, and a life path of awareness that it starts out one way, not really so much. It moves into, it can be get a little grunge rocky there for a little while, and then it ends up smoothing out into the type of pessimism that simply wants to kick the tires a couple times. I didn't say it sucks. I just have a natural proclivity to make sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out what doesn't work so that I
Right.
could know to fix it. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta know, like, it's really important to know what things don't work because that's gonna save people a lot of energy and effort. So once you come to terms with that aspect of your third line where it's like,
Well,
oh,
moving
it's
to the left, just one into the gate one. So three would be sustainment as a creative, pulsy, creative, your uniqueness, Moni uniqueness that says uniquey weeky says something. And when it starts, you're building the temple into burn land, once it starts, sustainment. And so pessimism must give way. One must give way to the other. So if the sustainment of the creative role model that you become is quashed by the pessimism, that would just lead to sheer misery for it seems like. So when you get into the sustainment part, what's that been like? Because that's a creative process. I can't even speak to that. When the creativity hits and you kick the tires and it lights you up and it speaks to the uniqueness because it shows up in a pulse, suddenly you sustain. And Moni's crew, that's this is the line that gives us the weeble that wobble that Ra always talked about. You get knocked down and you get back up again, and somehow or other just
mhm. I am the
sustain.
Chumbawamba song.
Yeah, so one could even sustain at being pessimistic. Technically, you can sustain at good things and bad things. So what has this sustainment journey been for you? There's been times when you kept on with the thing that it took a long time for you to break the bond with it because you were just sustaining it in some creative manner.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely when the right thing hits me and gets me going, like I just grab on and become voracious. Like whether it's human design, whether it's emotion code, whether it's building the GED sick domes, at the burn, because my brain can figure out that puzzle. When the certain things hit me, like I will just stick to it and be voracious and like completely tear it apart and understand it inside out, backwards, forwards. So there's definitely a committed aspect to things when it's
It,
right. When
it
it's not, I don't care.
all of these processes seem so well aided and embedded by this single definition channel, this 5125. It's just I feel so blessed just on your behalf that there's always this ego hanging around being part of the mix. Hey, yo, 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 yo. Right? Yeah, listen, bitches.
Yeah, no, the defined will is really fascinating to learn because a healthy will is like we can do this, we can get through this together, and being able to be in that energy, whether it's like I'm carrying it or with I'm with somebody else with a defined will, it's like we got this, like we
Hmm.
can make it through. So a healthy defined will is like a really special thing, and so it makes me happy when undefined will people can feel it that way, because I find a lot of undefined will people, there could be that insecurity, and especially with
Hmm.
the 2551, they could use that to like kind of feel like they have to compete against me or fight against me. I'm like, I don't want to fight you.
Right.
Like, it's the last thing I want to do. So I'm glad you feel positively about my will,
Yeah. No, I
pushing
love
things
that.
forward.
I love that thing. So sustainment and things is also the sustainment to basically the creative nature of what it is to stay alive as yourself. So this sustainment is sustaining as Moni. So have you had to somewhere along the way through your deconditioning and what human design always seems to give people is they stop fighting to be themselves. Right? I mean, you're not clawing with anybody to say, you better let me be me, because you've basically by now removed most of those resistances in your daily life. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and definitely struggled with that, like growing up or in school, like being a projector at all, but then like an ego projector is so rare. It was really difficult being in the mix of everyone else's everything and like just kind of getting
Hmm.
lost in the mix and being like, "Hi, I exist. Hi, please notice me.
Right.
Please stop trampling me." Whereas now it's nice, obviously, as an adult and having my own home and space and everything. I can feel a lot more comfortable and confident in myself and like, hey, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be, like me or leave me. Like I'm
Right.
going to bump into stuff and I'm going to, express some kind of heresy and I'm going to be me. So, dig it or don't.
Well, that sustainment overall, since it's your creative way, the sustaining is at anything, and it really, it just seems like it's the type of force that would beat back the things that make it not be able to be itself.
Oh yeah, no, don't. I'm not a good person to mess with in that way. Like I could definitely become like, like claws
Good.
out if I need
Yeah.
to be. I don't want to be, but it just like get out of my way. Or like
Gotcha.
what was our other ego projector that we had in our biofield tuning episode? She described it as the ego projector. It's like you remember the Care Bears, like the cartoon from the 80s.
Mhm.
The 2551, the ego projector, it's like the Care Bear stare out of our hearts. So it's become this really funny thing where like she suggested this and I started doing it. It's like when I get really intense about something, like I'll angle my chest away from like, my boyfriend or whoever I'm hanging out with because like they will get so overwhelmed by this
Gotcha.
like ego to identity Care Bear stare energy where it's like I'm not even trying to be super intense. Like I'm just excited about something.
I was just reading for a projector before we came on, like about an hour before we had come on, and I was pointing out to her, this notion that projectors can point where that projection goes, where that aura is going to you can basically aim the penetration,
Oh
even
yeah.
between two separate people that are standing right next to each other.
Oh, I hate when I talk to more than one person. I hate when there's two people because it's really annoying because I want to just talk to the one person, but I don't want to be rude. So I have to keep like popping back and forth and it's
Hmm.
exhausting and it's too much data. I can't connect. Projectors are so one-on-one that if you bring a third person into that mix, like I get annoyed. I get too much data. And I definitely have to be careful with who I look at in different situations because like I will go straight into their sense of who they are and I will pick way too much up. So I've become like really careful like who I look at and how and
Find it amazing that when projectors really get to understand the nature of their, focused and sort of penetrating aura, that they can point that thing at people on purpose or not. I don't know, can you unpoint it? If you're facing right at someone, aren't they somewhat even at least cursorily gripped in that thing? Or can you actually sort of unpoint it? Because I know you can choose to point it. Like one person
Mhm.
has more of the grip of the tractor beam that comes out
Yeah.
than maybe the person even 2 feet right to next to them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But can you I'm
I
curious.
mean, if I would, I'd have to like look away and like turn my body away. But it's a funny thing
Yeah,
because like projectors, like, and especially with like a generator type, it's just
you're
like I'm focused in and they're pulling me in also. And I'll just be
right.
like with
Right.
a generator. So I definitely, I've had to learn to angle it away or not, tell people like their
Oh, it
deepest
is a pointed
soul.
thing. You can literally point it away.
Hmm.
It follows the eyes. It sounds like it follows the intention really as much as anything else.
Yeah, yeah. I think like the overall intention and then the eyes, like if
And the
I'm
direction generally.
yeah, the general direction, but definitely like the eyes are very, windows to the soul kind of thing. So like, if I'm in a situation, like if I'm in the passenger seat and someone's driving and like there's some weird business, like I will like really try to not look at it
Right.
because I know I'll just end up taking in too much information and data and it'll be too exhausting.
That's just amazing. So, um, so gate 7, our role in interaction with the other.
Okay.
Can I ask about this one?
You can. I
So,
don't I don't have it lit up, so I'm very curious what you're
no, you
gonna
don't. So I'm just saying that it defines the role. No, I'm just saying that role that we have in our roles of the profile.
hmm
The profile has all these roles that mix together into this beautiful little hodgepodge. And I want to ask you about these things. And so
Yeah.
7, this being our role in interaction with the other, it's where we muscle up the army to get out into some form of potential leadership, or at least out in the mix, trying to move things forward, logical. So that means, understanding it's trying to push towards the future. And it becomes the alpha when it's a whole channel inside of a cross, the cross of the alpha. So it's this leadership, it's the general in the 5th line,
hmm
the authoritarian in the 1st line, but in the 3rd line,
Yeah.
right, it's this I forgot what is it in the
The
3rd line.
anarchist.
Anarchist, right, right,
Yeah.
right. I knew that.
Yeah.
So anarchist as a guided logical process moving us towards the future sounds like a finessed thing, especially in a projector. It
hmm
doesn't sound like the authoritative anarchist that comes in and starts, we're going to tear it all down. It sounds, it sounds like
Hey,
an
this isn't
anarchy.
working. Point, point,
Yeah.
point. Like
And
this
the
is
anarchy will build until a resonance reaches that shatters the foundation of the thing so that a new foundation can come in. And what kinds talk to me about anarchy, its joy and its downfall.
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting one because yeah, it's just generally that like, hey, this is what doesn't work, right? Like, this is what is broken, this is not working. So like as a child or teenager, really more so, let's say, it was really frustrating, or again, maybe more like my punk rock days. So you can get lost in that negative side of trying to tear everything down. Or it is, yeah, like this doesn't work and we need to identify it. But again, as a projector, you need to be invited to point out what doesn't work. So
Right.
like I can always see things that like, hey, that's not working, that could be done better, that can be improved. Like it's just the nature of my brain is like, I just want to make everything better and I want to make it prettier. But it's only if somebody is inviting that or desiring that information. Otherwise, I just can come off like a jerk or like just like an annoying thorn in the side, or they just don't hear me. So it's a funny thing, and especially as a projector, it could lead to a lot of bitterness in that capacity where you're like, hey, bad thing, bad thing right here. And you're
Right.
trying to point it out, nobody hears it, and then a horrible thing happens, and you're like, I tried to tell you. So that's been kind of difficult to know
Well, it
something that,
seems like a finessing process because at some
yeah.
point in time, anarchy turns into this also a leadership quality. It helps move the direction. The third line, third and fourth are part of that active, energetic binary, right? In so many different ways, it helps to move things along. It's a changing place in that binary, and so the third line is literally trying to bring something new, an adaptation, something mutative. Third line is the mutative line. It's a one line common to the it's to the common to the alpha and omega, meaning the first profile and the last profile.
Mm-hmm.
Everything begins with the third line. Ra would argue. I've heard him say it before in different ways. I agree. So in leadership and moving things forward, the anarchy can just be bringing something new.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happened over and over again, or something creatively sustainable that there's no need for pessimism for, and it's perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily what was going to happen 10 minutes earlier. Is that is that just something that you resonate with, like in your life, like you'd bring something or you'd want to bring something, or when you were recognized, you were very often recognized for the adaptive movement, new thing that you brought to something.
Oh yeah, definitely. And especially like when recognized and when invited, like I'm always the one who's going to have some new weird idea, or even, bringing in like the emotion code, body code, discovering that and like starting to introduce, certain people to it and the people who really take into it. That 2551, especially, since my 25 is a line 3, and whatnot, then it's kind of being kicked out of the tribe. The 51 like shocks me out of
Mm,
the tribe to go this new direction with the 25, to learn these new things, see what works, see what doesn't, and kind of I almost feel like going ahead down on the trail a little bit, right? Like you're
mm.
hanging out the tribe, you're shocked out, and then like I'm going ahead down the trail, and either I'm gonna go find like something magical and like dinner for the night, or it's like, hey, you guys, there's a bear over there, we should turn around, this is not the right way to go.
Right,
um
right.
so I definitely feel that in that kind of
The life
capacity.
process of the anarchist, the basically this role that is acts a little bit like a kamikaze at times, and that will make and break the bonds as part of the anarchy to just to shake things up. Very much, I find that Gate 7 takes the same lessons as like Gate 18. It's got its fear of challenge, right? And its fear of like that the authority might do something to them, right? Yet it still wants to challenge authority, right? That's
Mhm.
18. But at the same time, it's very much doing so strictly to make sure things are still good, like kicking the tire. Ah, no, we're still good. We're still good here. So the challenge very often is make sure it's still good. So the anarchist version isn't necessarily to tear everything down. It's to like, hey, it's still a little bit of tension makes things work good again.
Mhm.
Is that a slogan for an anarchist? A little bit of tensions makes it work good again.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like you said, kick the tire, make sure it works. Like, I'm definitely like the one, like the last one out of the house before we go, and like make sure everything is in order. The stove is off. The this is this. That's that. The lights are off. The heat's off. Whatever it's got to be done. I'll kind of like go bump into everything one last time to make sure it's all good and groovy.
That's not always me at all. But sometimes I have a capacity, but no, I get it. And then now this behavior of the self, the love of the self, part of your incarnation cross.
Hmm.
of this vessel of love that, like, I've found that the vessel is, to just look at it is to realize it empowers the direction that the Sphinx brings. It's got a clear job, and with it, just its placement, right, alone.
Mhm.
But our behavior that wants to love ourselves, wants the behavior of others to be okay, in that third line, that literally gets its name. So, but as a projector, you weren't always in the mix to be martyred. But how did that work out for you? The martyrs, the one with all of their respect and self-dignity stays intact. That's why they that's part of what martyrs them. If you think about it, their sense of self stays intact enough to where they won't make a certain change that does then get that certain outcasting a little bit of the person who kept making a mistake. How did that show up in your life, or did that get reasonably well handled in your life?
The being the one who's always making mistakes.
Yeah. And martyring and being, cast a little bit, and having the black sheep cast
Oh
maybe
yeah, no,
a little bit.
definitely. Yeah, definitely very black sheep, definitely very oddball. Definitely, it's like you want to be the cool kid, but you're not the cool kid. And like
Mm.
trying to look cool, falling on your face. That was definitely me each time. But what are you gonna do? Like it's just like that's
Sustain
what it
and
was.
get back up.
Sustain and get
Sustain.
back up, yeah, and,
Right.
a lot of rejection. I definitely feel like I always felt very rejected by everything, but it's also like the nodes with the 6, where it's just this impact, 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 and then fall on your face with the third line. Quite literally, actually, that's
Well,
happened.
it was the notes that made me want to go across the top of the G center and just sort of ask about these roles. You know what I mean? And just
Mm-mm.
get some more insight into Moni, because it just seems so fascinating. So much of your stuff. Every time I look at a body graph, I look for the tanglement. Where's it a little snarly? Where's the body graph got some snarly action going on? Or does it appear to be like combed out well, or just sort of an appearance? I don't see a ton of snarly in yours.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I saw
Yay.
snarly on the last one I was looking at. I was like, lines going into it. I was like, there's a snarly thing here. And so I started speaking to it.
Uh-huh.
Yours, I see just sort of a decent amount of order, except down at the very bottom, I'm wondering, with so much pressure and that projector frame to be the initiator as well, with that ego flexor, the flex machine, flexomatic, the 22 flexomatic,
Uh-huh.
um, right?
Yeah, the
All
root
of that.
pressure is exhausting. The root pressure
Yes.
definitely. It's like do another thing, start another thing, do another thing, and it's like I don't want to always be the one doing the thing.
So
Um,
58 gets a little bit excited. 38 says,
I'm
gonna,
gonna just try to
gonna
stop me.
maybe.
Yeah,
And
that
54 is like looking around. It's like, I'm about to snake out a plan here. We're doing something. And it seems to have a little drive towards a thing.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And then it's like, let's do the thing, and then thinking everyone else is going to go along with it, and then they're not, and like, come on, let's do the thing. But it doesn't have the other side of any of those gates, so it's kind of like this
Right.
excitement to do the thing and this desire to do the thing, and then kind of even like definitely jumping in too soon or trying to make something happen or being too excited to get something going that was not the right thing to be going, and then like I've like found myself in a weird
So
situation.
all this really tells me down here is that, because we're back to the nodes, and that 36 doesn't, at this point in time, doesn't matter that it's in an open center. That 36 is still pointing at the thing that gives the 36 its crisis in the first place. The fact that it's not 35 already, you know what I mean? And it's not being 35 in its happy place. And so 36 that's part of its crisis, as we well know, part of its unconscious. So that desire, then a big thing would have been the acceptance of expectations. So how did you deal with expectations and so forth? Have you everyone that's a different path for everyone, but we somewhere along the line we come to realize we don't get to expect most things. I expect this person to be this way. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Oh yeah, no, definitely it's always shock. Like my 51, like there's
Yeah,
always gonna be a shock and a surprise. Um, and yeah, having an expectation, even like simple things of like expectation of decency of like somebody, and especially with my gate 10, I have 4 gate 10s. So there's definitely like a lot of expectation of other people's behavior and very upset when they're not behaving correctly. Um,
Hmm.
So definitely a lot of those things have hit, and a lot of like shock and surprise, or like the 25-3 is like, just because it's innocent doesn't mean you're going to succeed. So
Right.
definitely I've fallen on my face in a lot of ways.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see all that. So ultimately, our path through the expectation land is something that's really, everyone needs to get a handle on that, right? Because how much, expecting something, and it's mundane stuff, and that adds up to a great big thing, but it's all really interesting. And then what's it like having a totally open throat?
Crazy.
Have you learned to deal at this point? Does it feel normal enough yet?
I mean, I'm used to it because it's mine, but it's like I never know what's gonna come out of my throat. Like I don't ever know what is shooting out of here. And like I will say crazy things, I will say wild things. So it can be very interesting and surprising. And then also can get me in a lot of trouble. And because it's like I feel like my open throat will say the thing that needs to be said, but it's not being said. That somebody else is supposed to say this thing and they're not saying it, and I don't even mean to say it, but it like shoots out of me. And then,
Partnered with your ego.
dude, it's like I don't even want to say it. I don't want to like get into issues
Are
with
you
people.
sure?
I
I'm joking.
mean, in certain situations you want to say more and like
Right.
trying to refrain. And so depending on how well my energy is, how much I can hold something in and hold something in, and then finally something will shoot out. And sometimes it's what needed to be said, but it's like really shocking and it'll throw disorder into everything, but it's what needed to be said in the long run. For certain situations. So in that situation, it's really interesting. And then also with like the energy work and like ceremonies and stuff that I do, I find that because my throat is completely open, it'll give other people's stuck energy a means to exit, which has been very, very interesting and beneficial in the correct situations.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. And then the final thing with the open throat's kind of crazy, where it's just like it's like nothing I say is original in a way. Like I'll say really crazy things, but also I have to be very careful because I find I can very easily mimic other people's ideas, opinions on things. And things that I've heard. And sometimes it's really great if it's something really like smart and clever, and then I have this knowledge. And other times I'm repeating something where I'm like, I don't even know that that's what I think, but I heard that and it's just there and it shoots out. So it's a crazy thing.
Well, I can see how with absolutely no activations in the throat, it would make the perfect reflective background to know what to say ultimately, as soon as you're honoring your strategy and authority. And so at some point in your experience, you recognize that honoring my strategy and authority actually does help me understand what really matters. And then it tones down the fires of Eden. That's what they should really name the cross. Instead of the cross of Eden, the
Well,
cross
it's
of
like the
fire.
sword. It's like
Yeah.
that angel is in front of the Garden of Eden with the sword of fire.
Fire, yeah. Fires of Eden. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Fiery swords of Eden. Yeah, of Eden. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's
Yeah,
blaspheming me right now.
I definitely feel like I've learned a lot and like deconditioned a bunch with the throat, but there's definitely more to be had. I find it very difficult to be quiet in situations unless I like commit to being mute and I have like a dry erase board, which is really nice because it just feels like this big relief. I definitely feel a lot of pressure to perform and entertain. I've done like a lot of performing in my life, a lot of like different stage performances and stuff like that. And even like I used to bartend, which is very much being on a stage and entertaining people. And so I've recently actually been thinking about this with like my Hanging Gate 11. It's like I'm always looking for that 56 to stimulate, to be funny, to like make somebody laugh, to, make it less awkward because they're just sitting there quietly and I'm trying to get them going. So I definitely feel that pressure. The 43 as well. Trying to come up with how do I say a certain word. So I can feel that kind of pressure. And I find with the open throat, I can be a very good gauge of the authenticity of other people's speech.
Well, I noticed both of your second lines, you only have two of them, are packed over here in this one little quadrant of the planetary arrangement.
Yeah, Venus and Mars on the design.
Yep. Yep. Venus and Mars, and 43, line 2. You have your book,
I
right?
do have my book. I got it
Good. I would
right.
love to know what that is.
So 43, line 2 is dedication. The maintenance of specialized attitudes which promote breakthrough, unique mental habits and thought processes which promote insight. Yeah, I
Mm.
definitely got a lot of that.
When it gets called out of you, like you
Mhm.
don't always know you have it up in the very beginning. Yeah, that's always coming out. That is just always wanting to get called out of you. I wonder what 42, 41, line 2 is, because this would be where very much of the morals that you'll communicate in your life will
Yeah,
mix themselves up in this particular area. Will get mixed up. You'll mix up the batch, and you'll have a batch of morals for yourself.
yeah. 41, line 2 is caution, humanism tempered by pragmatism, a conservative nature that does not risk its own security in aiding others, energy for one's own feelings, but not for others.
Meaning before they get called into being with others, because you realize that that can't be the full end of the story for that second line. It has to get called out because it's in a stream that shares, obviously. So it's when that gets called out. So basically, getting called out by the right people brings the experiential way forward for you.
Yes.
So yeah, so you do get called out in that thing, and then that's when that root energy starts working right, and the pressure probably goes away in those moments, I bet.
Yeah, when it's the right people who recognize me, like those like very specific special people in my life who very much recognize me and value me, and they know that I bring so much value to their lives that then like call me out. Those are like the most special.
Mm, mm. The touchers. I was so happy when we both found that sixth line that we have in the same, that
The
sixth
sixth tone.
tone. Yeah, we have in the same position. I can't
Hmm.
really think of much else to really ask, Moni, because it's we've been at this so long already. It's like I'm not sure what else it doesn't feel like your normal interview. We should just wrap up, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, I could feel that. I feel really good about it. And you definitely brought up some new things for me, because it's funny when it's because like I know so much about my chart too, but like you still will like find something new or make a connection that I hadn't that I really appreciate. So
I
it's been
think
really fun.
that for each other just on an ongoing basis,
Oh yeah.
and that I think I think we're supposed to do that for each other. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely like soul contract kind of thing because, you know, um I both of us are so used to reading for other people and noticing things about other people's charts and helping them, and it's usually more introductory, or maybe like occasionally you can find somebody who like knows a bit more, but to find another person who knows so much and we can just bounce
Mhm.
back and forth. Like I love our friendship.
Yeah, me too, Moni. Thank you so much, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Absolutely. One day, it'll be both of ours' birthday gift, even though on the different times, that I really want to get out onto the street, Moni. You shock them. You penetrate them. You shock them. We'll get Moana. I don't. We'll give me and all of us maybe. I want to read for people on the street and get those little, like, what? Huh? What are you talking about? Well, isn't it true that blah blah blah? Don't you notice that? What? I just want to see that.
Uh-huh.
Like that amazing look on people when they realize there's something else.
Oh yeah. I
Yep.
mean, I feel like you get that every time when you read for somebody.
You do, but I want to do it, man on the street. Like other people do when they get out there and they show the cool thing that's working.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well,
Anyway.
we'll see where the universe takes us.
Thank you, Moni.
Thank you, Danny.
Yep. Oh yeah,
You're
we hear
muted.
you. We don't hear you, I mean.
That would help. I didn't have my mic in. We did it.
We did it. It's
Ta-da!
over.
Conclusion. That
Oh wait,
felt
I had
good.
one more. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh.
No, no, no. We done. So thank you, both of you, Danny, Moni, for
Hmm.
coming along for the ride and sharing yourselves in such a wonderful, beautiful way to make the series what it is. I am pretty sure no one has gone this deep and this extensive with deconditioning in one series like we did. So give ourselves a pat on
Pat
the
on the
back
back.
for that,
Yeah, big time.
right? It's just like do it once, do it well, never look back.
There you go.
Is how we've been doing things. So we are moving on to a more information-based things like I mentioned last time. So next week, we have a treat for you. We're going to be bringing back no, is that next week or is that the week after?
We're
So
doing definition next week.
yeah, it's the week after, but I might as well spoil this for people who is still paying attention. So there was an episode that we had shot that
Oh,
never made it as a recording. Just didn't
the
have
lost
to.
episode.
The lost episode, which
So this
is
will be
the what is human design
real,
episode.
real basic.
We're just bringing it back to the basics.
Uh-huh.
So I tried to tell Danny, hey, we really should do this one again,
Mm.
because it's very foundational. My line one's like, no, we need that first brick, just for our records. And he's like,
Yeah.
you're never making me doing that. But we're gonna do it. Not
We're
next
gonna do
week.
So
but the
next
week
week,
after.
let's do an order of operations. Next week, we're
Yes.
doing definition. What is definition? We're going to go into single, split, triple split, quad split, and no definition with our reflectors. And then the week after that, we'll be doing what is human design and our introduction to circuitry, because then we're going into our circuitry series, which is going to be super fun.
Yes.
Nice and
And
lengthy.
also, another really fun thing that we're going to be doing with definition is we're going to bring back the roundtable style discussion that we did for our profile line party, except we're doing it with definition. So we're going to have a representative from every type of definition to talk about their uh, experiences and how they go through life differently compared to the other definition that's sitting right beside them on the show. So it's going to be a
Mm.
really juicy, tantalizing discussion that
Yes.
I cannot wait to see. And I'm pretty sure something like this has not been done before. So
That's not
very,
that I'm
very
aware of.
excited. Yes, it's going to be fantastic. So if you've been watching thus far, thank you. And thank you for, coming back week after week, whether that's live or watching our YouTube videos or our replays, whichever way you consume. We were super, super thankful, super, super grateful. Please do share. And we're always thankful for all the subscribers, the old ones, the new ones. We are super, super close to 300, which is
And we're like
super exciting.
$2.99 today.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like one more away. So, that shows us that you like what we're putting out. So please do show us more love. We are never going
Spread it
to not
around.
appreciate it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah.
keep subscribing, keep liking, commenting. We love reading your
Oh, yeah.
comments.
The comments are
Yes.
great. I
Yeah,
love the comments.
everything. Whatever's on your mind, whatever it made you, ponder stories, whatever. Like, please do interact with us in the comments if you can't do it with us when we are going live, like we do every Wednesday, because we know that we have global watchers who can't make it necessarily at this particular time. But we appreciate you and we love you and thank you for being here. And we will see you same time next week and
Next
we will bid
week.
you adieu.
Take it easy,
Cheerio.
everyone.